What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about The Last of Us Online, The Last of Us factions, whatever you want to call this thing. How this thing continues to just confuse me more and more, as time has gone on. Now, look, I've said kind of countless times now, I feel like this thing actually would have worked. Now, I'm not defending that it should have happened and you shouldn't have shut it down, nothing like that. My base point has always been just put it in back in time, just put in The Last of Us Part 2. I've seen this argument being made, and I think it is a pretty rational and pretty logical one. We knew it started up like around the time the game came out, maybe even a few years before it. Just put it in, just the same way you did Last of Us 1. You didn't have to do anything super fancy, super crazy. The idea of the mechanics of The Last of Us 2 and being able to put it into multiplayer like you had with the first game, I think would have worked fine. If you wanted to expand, I think you had an idea there with maybe like infected versus, humans, or, I've said it before, you think to some of the really, I would say, good levels, specifically maybe the second half of The Last of Us 2, you could have like player versus player and then also just have AI, humans fighting each other, and then you also have infected. You think to like the mansion type level where you could shoot chains off of infected and they would start attacking people. Something like that just as multiplayer. You didn't have to get super, super crazy. So that's been my stance, okay? I would have played it because I really like the first one, okay? I actually played that like 4 or 5 years ago when The Last of Us Part 2 was coming out. I played Last of Us Online. So, okay, Shuhei Yoshida did an interview with Colin Moriarty, which seemingly, we're getting all these little snippets. I think it's to paid members right now, and then it goes out to everybody kind of later. It's really good from at least the snippets that we kind of see. So he talked a little bit about this, not a ton, just a little. I want to read out loud what he said, and I want to explain why I think I'm more confused than ever before. So he said he played the game. He played this canceled product, and he said that it was great. He said the idea for The Last of Us Online came from Naughty Dog, but Bungie explained what it takes to make live service games, and Naughty Dog realized, oops, we can't do that. If we do it, we can't make Intergalactic. Now, I am 100% trusting Shuhei, okay? I'm going to assume that he's not embellishing, anything kind of random here, right? He's a living legend. I give him that kind of faith and that kind of trust. A couple things that make you just say, what the F is going on, right? So number one, a kind of a hilarious, ironic thing is Bungie explaining anything nowadays. And I say that with not the intent to say these people are like the worst people at their jobs or anything. I say it just genuinely kind of funny. They are not a studio that's doing very good. They haven't had the performance that was expected. If Sony had a do-over to buy them, I think 11 out of 10 times they would choose to not do it. I think the one time in the one alternate universe is actually the one that we're living in, is the one that they got Bungie. And I don't think they would ever redo it and actually buy Bungie ever again. Maybe to give them advice that ends up working out at the end of the day. The funny thing is, you buy Bungie, and remember some of the background stuff with these live service things that I hated probably more than anything, as Bungie was falling apart, right, that we could kind of see. As Bungie's falling apart, there's reports that PlayStation and Sony are using them almost as advisors, that they're going around to all of their studios and doing this criteria check on all these live service games. And they're grading it. They're giving feedback. Oh, here's how we would change this or improve that to all of these PlayStation live service games. A couple things wrong with that. Again, this is kind of old news, but it obviously connects. Why would you do that? Why is Bungie the be-all, end-all of criteria of how to do these things? Yeah, they're the resident experts, but can you get a second opinion? Can you not base everything based off of them? Now, again, funny enough, it kind of, works for Naughty Dog because they get talked into saying, oh, shoot, this was... But at the same time, okay, let's move to point number 2. While that's, ironically funny, how about, are we sure that that's exactly how it played out? And again, I'm going to trust Shuhei, but it actually makes Naughty Dog look really, really not smart, right? The way maybe it's how he said it. The way he's describing it is that they were working on this game, and we know they were working on this game for at least 4 years, right? Let's give them maybe even a little bit more time. That they were working on this game for almost half a freaking decade, right? Day in, day out, they go to their job, and I'm going somewhere with this, just like they were going somewhere with their 5 years of development. They were going to work, working on the job, going home, back, forth. At no point, not a single day, did they ever stop and ask each other, not Bungie, did they ever go to work and look at each other and say, wait a second, are we going to have to support this beyond when it launches? You're telling me nobody said that, because the way it's described, even honestly, the way it was described back when this game was canceled, was that Naughty Dog had this epiphany, and they said, oh shoot, if we make this game, this is going to take up our entire lives. This is going to take our whole company to do it, so we can't make any other game. I don't even know if I talked about this element of it when all this stuff happened, originally. How do you even arrive at that point? I can understand one part of it. I can understand maybe thinking, well, we were only expecting some of us to work on it, right? Maybe, okay, we had 200 people working on it, 100, whatever it was, right? Say 200 people. The game ships, and then we have 50 people that work on it for the rest of their natural-born lives, right? And that's it. They just work on it, and everybody else moves on. And maybe Bungie talked to them and said, hey, and the one great piece of advice they gave was, hey, just so you know, when the game ships, you can't just say 3/4 of your team are moved off of it. You actually still need the whole team. In fact, you might need more people to keep the game going. That's the only part that I can somewhat rationalize up here. Beyond that, it should have been obvious, number one. It should have been something that they thought about. And how do you not know that? How do you need Bungie to come in to tell you that? Okay, so I don't know. That part specifically makes it even more confusing that they were working on it for so long. I think my theory, my conspiracy theory, is it just ballooned. It started because, he says, they are the ones who created it, which we know that, right? I mean, I imagine that. Shuhei also said, I think, separately in that same interview that no first-party team was ever, mandated, you have to do this. Now, I don't fully believe that. It's honestly the same thing with, Rocksteady, the reports that Rocksteady was not mandated to, do something like that. I feel like it was an industry trend for many years. It still is. An industry trend where literally everybody's doing it. I think it's just a lot of pressure. I honestly think all of these games are situations where they get a little say, but they have their upper people, Sony, PlayStation, WB with Rocksteady, etc. They have them whispering in their ears saying, well, you could do this, or we might highly suggest that you do this other thing. I feel like all of these games are examples of that. And okay, let me tie these things together. I think the idea was simply a Factions 2. Just, more. More of the first game's multiplayer. And as time went on, because this is the same era. This is 2020, 2021. We had the stuff around the world. We had every game leaning into this harder than ever before. You're telling me there was no external pressure to up it? And that's what I think happened. They started with a concept, then they really started pushing it. It became a literal live service game. I do believe originally they did say it was never going to be part of the base game, so granted, that was always the idea. Maybe it was always ambitious, but I just feel like it got even more. I feel like as the years went on, it became a legitimate live service game. But then again, I know they've never done it, and that's still also a stupid reason to do it in the first place, right? People have never done it before they try it out. But nobody ever stopped to think that, oh, shoot, we're going to have to work on this. When the game comes out, that doesn't mean we stop working on it. I just don't know. I don't know how you can say, maybe he's kidding, but it's how do you really think? When you're planning it all out and you're saying, we want to make Intergalactic, we want to make The Last of Us Part 3, do you not look at the numbers and say, well, we need X people on this thing, Y people on that thing? Do you not do that? You needed Bungie to tell you that in order to figure it out? I don't get it. I feel like there's something missing, because that better not be. And again, I'm going to trust Shuhei, so I'm going to put the blame now on everybody else. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.